First counterattack. Captain Maya Chen stared at the anomalous signal patterns dancing across her command console. The EDA Intrepid had been patrolling the outer reaches of the solar system when their sensors detected something unlike anything she'd encountered in her 15 years of service with Earth's Defense Alliance. "Analysis, Lieutenant Park?" she asked, her voice steady despite the uneasy feeling growing in her gut. Park's fingers moved rapidly across his station. "It's definitely artificial, Captain. Pattern suggests advanced communication, but it's not matching any known signature in our database. And the source?" He paused, double-checking his readings. "It's moving. Fast." Maya nodded, her dark eyes narrowing. "Direction? Toward us, ma'am. ETA to Saturn's orbit approximately 14 hours at current velocity." The bridge fell silent. In the decades since humanity had ventured beyond Mars, they had found no evidence of intelligent extraterrestrial life. The possibility that they were about to make first contact sent a ripple of tension through the crew. "Alert Earth Command. All stations to yellow alert. I want continuous monitoring of that signal. If it's trying to communicate, I want to know what it's saying." As the crew executed her orders, Maya gazed at the vast starfield on the main view screen. Humanity had always questioned whether they were alone in the universe. Today, it seemed, they might get their answer. Hours passed with the bridge crew working tirelessly to decrypt the incoming signal. Finally, Dr. Eliza Wong, the ship's xenolinguistics specialist, approached Maya with a tablet in hand. "Captain, I think we've got something. The signal contains mathematical sequences, prime numbers, followed by what appears to be a simple pictorial language. It's an introduction and a warning." Maya took the tablet, studying the translated symbols. "A warning about what?" "They call themselves the Sorith. From what we can decipher, they're refugees, fleeing from something they call the Void Harvesters. They're seeking sanctuary." Before Maya could respond, the tactical officer called out, "Captain, unknown vessel has dropped out of faster-than-light travel. It's massive, approximately 3 kilometers in length." The view screen shifted to show an elegant vessel that seemed to be composed of overlapping silver curves, pulsing with soft blue light along its hull. "They're broadcasting again, Captain," Park reported. "This time it's different, more complex." Dr. Wong worked frantically at her station. "It's a direct communication attempt. They've analyzed our response and are adapting their transmission to facilitate understanding." "That's incredibly sophisticated." Maya straightened her uniform. "Open a channel. Let's make history." The face that appeared on the view screen was vaguely humanoid. 2 eyes, a mouth-like structure, but with pale luminescent skin covered in subtle geometric patterns. The alien spoke, and their words were translated by the ship's eye with only a slight delay. "Greetings, protectors of Earth. I am Ambassador Keylorn of the Sorith Collective. We come seeking alliance and offering knowledge. The darkness that consumed our worlds now approaches yours." Maya stepped forward. "I am Captain Maya Chen of the Earth Defense Alliance. We've received your warning about these Void Harvesters. What exactly are we dealing with?" Keylorn's expression shifted in a way that somehow conveyed deep sorrow despite the alien physiology. "They are an ancient species that feeds on energy, particularly the energy of developed civilizations. They harvest worlds, leaving nothing behind. We fled our home systems when our defenses failed. We bring technology to share, but also danger, for they follow us still. How much time do we have? Perhaps one of your Earth years, perhaps less. They move methodically, consuming everything in their path." News of the Sorith's arrival spread across Earth like wildfire. The United Earth Council convened an emergency session, with Maya attending remotely from the Intrepid, which was now escorting the Sorith vessel to Earth orbit. This could be an elaborate deception, General Williams argued, his weathered face creased with suspicion. "For all we know, they're the aggressors, and these Void Harvesters are coming to help us." Dr. Wong, who had joined Maya for the council meeting, shook her head. The Sorith communication patterns show no deception markers. Their language structure doesn't even seem to accommodate complex falsehoods. And their technology, it's beyond anything we theorized. Which could make them an even greater threat, countered Ambassador Ito. If they're so advanced, why do they need our help? Why not continue fleeing? Maya spoke up. They've been fleeing for the equivalent of 30 Earth years. Their population is diminished, their resources strained. And according to them, the Void Harvesters are relentless. They don't stop pursuing once they've targeted a species. The debate continued for hours, with opinions sharply divided between offering sanctuary and maintaining isolation. Maya found herself increasingly advocating for cooperation with the Sorith, impressed by their apparent openness and the potential benefits of their technology. As the council session entered its 5th hour, Maya's first officer interrupted with an urgent communication. Captain, sensors have detected a new object entering the system. Small, approximately the size of a destroyer, but the energy readings are off the charts. It's approached from the direction the Sorith vessel came from, but it's moving much faster. Maya felt ice in her veins. Send visual. The image that appeared showed a stark contrast to the elegant Sorith ship. This vessel was angular, black as the void itself, with pulsing red energy emanating from what appeared to be weapon ports. It's scanning everything, her first officer reported. Earth, Mars colonies, our orbital platforms. Wait, it's charging weapons. Alert Earth Command. All available ships to defensive positions. Maya ordered, already moving toward the bridge. To the council, she added, I believe the Sorith's warning just proved itself genuine. The next few hours were chaos. The Void Harvester scout ship, for that's what it was, attacked with devastating precision, destroying 3 orbital platforms before Earth's combined fleet could mount an effective response. The Sorith vessel remained in a defensive position, extending some kind of energy barrier that protected both their ship and the Intrepid. It was Maya who ultimately devised the successful counterattack. Noticing a pattern in the enemy ship's movement, she coordinated a simultaneous assault from multiple vectors, concentrating fire on what sensors identified as a potential weak point. The scout ship eventually retreated, jumping to FTL and disappearing, but not before sending a burst transmission toward deep space. In the aftermath, as damage reports flooded in, Maya stood with Ambassador Keylorn on the Intrepid's observation deck, watching emergency teams working on the damaged orbital platforms. That was merely a scout, Keylorn said softly. A single scout, and look at the devastation it caused. The main fleet will bring destruction you cannot imagine. Maya turned to the alien diplomat. Then we better start preparing. The Council's vote is unanimous now. Earth will stand with the Sorith, not just out of compassion, but out of necessity. Keylorn's skin patterns shifted, glowing slightly brighter. Then perhaps there is hope after all. We bring technology, Captain Chen, but your people bring something we have long forgotten. What's that? The will to fight, the determination to survive against all odds. We have been running for so long. Perhaps with humanity beside us, we can finally make a stand. As they looked out at Earth gleaming below them, Maya felt the weight of what was coming. Humanity had just been thrust onto a cosmic stage they hadn't known existed, facing an enemy they barely understood. But if there was one thing humans had always done well, it was adapt and overcome. We'll need everything your people know about the Void Harvesters, she said, and we'll need to start integrating our technologies immediately. It begins then, Keylorn said, those alien eyes reflecting the blue and green of Earth below. The alliance that will either save both our peoples or witness our final moments together. The scout attack had changed everything. There was no more debate, no more hesitation. Humanity now faced an existential threat, and they would meet it head-on. The alliance. 6 months after the scout ship attack, Earth had transformed. The evidence of humanity's newfound alliance with the Sorith was visible even from orbit, where Maya Chen now stood on the observation deck of the newly commissioned EDA Defiant. Massive defense platforms encircled the planet, their sleek designs a hybrid of human and Soreth engineering. On the surface, conversion facilities worked around the clock, upgrading Earth's fleet with alien technology. "Impressive progress," said Killorn, joining her at the viewport. The Soreth ambassador had become a constant presence in Maya's life, their odd partnership forged in the frantic preparations for war. "We're good at adapting," Maya replied, "especially when survival depends on it." Their relationship had evolved from cautious diplomatic exchanges to something approaching friendship, though both were acutely aware of the vast differences between their species. The Soreth were ancient, methodical, their civilization built on careful consensus and technological harmony. Humans, by contrast, seemed chaotic, impulsive, driven by emotions the Soreth struggled to comprehend. "The integration of our shield technology with your weapon systems has exceeded projections," Killorn observed, "though I confess your engineers' insistence on improving our designs is unsettling." Maya smiled slightly. "We can't help tinkering. It's part of who we are." "Indeed, your species seems determined to put your mark on everything you touch." Before Maya could respond, her communication device chimed. Captain Chin to command immediately. In the newly established Joint Command Center beneath Geneva, General Williams stood before a holographic display showing movement across the outer solar system. His face was grim as Maya and Killorn entered. The long-range detection array just picked up multiple signatures entering the Kuiper belt, he announced without preamble. "Signature matches the scout ship, but larger. Much larger." Maya studied the tactical display. "How many?" 7 vessels, each approximately 7 kilometers in length. At their current speed, they'll reach Saturn's orbit in 2 weeks. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The scout ship alone had nearly overwhelmed Earth's defenses. 7 full-sized harvesters could be devastating. "We need to intercept them before they reach Earth," Maya said, her tactical mind already analyzing options. "Hit them while they're spread out, before they can coordinate." Williams nodded. "That's the consensus. We're mobilizing the fleet, 30 ships, including 5 with fully integrated Soreth technology." Killorn stepped forward, the patterns on their skin pulsing with what Maya had learned to recognize as concern. "The harvesters adapt quickly. They will analyze your tactics and counter them. Then we'll need to be unpredictable," Maya replied. The plan that emerged was bold, perhaps reckless. Instead of a unified defense, Earth's fleet would deploy in seemingly chaotic patterns, using Saturn's rings and moons as cover. The newly developed pulse drives, a hybrid technology combining Soreth's spatial manipulation with human nuclear engineering, would allow for rapid, unpredictable movements that the harvester's predictive systems might struggle to counter. As preparations accelerated, tensions within the alliance began to surface. Some human military leaders distrusted the Soreth's pacifistic approach, questioning whether they were withholding more advanced weapons technology. Meanwhile, many Soreth were disturbed by humanity's aggressive strategies, seeing echoes of the very predatory nature that defined the Void Harvesters. Maya found herself increasingly playing diplomat as well as military leader, bridging the philosophical divide between the species. She spent hours in debate with both sides, arguing that their differences were their greatest strength against an enemy that had conquered countless homogeneous civilizations. 2 days before the fleet's departure, Maya found Killorn in one of the Defiant's laboratories, studying what appeared to be battlefield simulations. "Trouble sleeping?" she asked, noting the unusual hours. "My species requires less rest than yours," Killorn replied, then hesitated. "I am concerned about the coming conflict. Having doubts about our chances." "Not exactly. I am troubled by what I see emerging in our alliance. Your people embrace warfare with a fervor that reminds me of historical accounts of the Harvester's origins." Maya leaned against a console. "We fight hard because we value what we're protecting. There's a difference between fighting to defend and fighting to consume." Perhaps, but I've observed your military leaders. There is a hunger in them, not for destruction itself, but for victory at any cost. It is disconcerting. We're facing extinction, Kilorn. That tends to bring out extremes in human nature, both the worst and the best. The Sorith's skin patterns shifted in what Maya had come to recognize as their equivalent of a sad smile. And which shall prevail, I wonder? The conversation lingered in Maya's mind as the Earth fleet departed 2 days later. The Armada was the most powerful humanity had ever assembled, yet against the Void Harvesters, they remained outmatched in both technology and experience. The battle at Saturn began with an initial success. The Earth fleet's erratic movement patterns confused the Harvester vessels long enough for the first wave of attacks to penetrate their outer defenses. 3 of the enemy ships sustained damage from the experimental pulse weapons, but the advantage was short-lived. As Kilorn had warned, the Harvesters adapted with frightening speed. Within hours, they had analyzed the human attack patterns and begun to predict their movements. What had started as a promising engagement quickly descended into a desperate fight for survival. From the bridge of the Defiant, Maya watched in horror as Earth ships were systematically targeted and destroyed. The Harvester vessels moved with increasing coordination, herding the human fleet into a killing zone between 2 of Saturn's moons. They're anticipating every move we make, Maya's tactical officer reported, his voice strained. It's like they're reading our playbook. Maya's mind raced. The carefully planned strategy was failing, but she refused to accept defeat. All ships switched to Contingency Protocol Delta, complete communication blackout except for emergency channel. Each ship captain to execute independent tactical decisions without coordination. It was a desperate move, deliberately breaking their own carefully constructed battle plan to introduce genuine chaos into the equation. For a brief time, it worked. The Harvester's prediction algorithms faltered against truly random human actions. But the reprieve was temporary. The enemy ships regrouped and changed tactics, focusing overwhelming firepower on ships that isolated themselves. One by one, the Earth vessels were crippled or destroyed. After 18 hours of continuous battle, the order to retreat was given. The surviving ships, less than half the original fleet, limped back toward Earth, with the Harvesters following at a measured pace, like predators confident their prey had nowhere to run. In the Defiant's medical bay, Maya sat beside Kilorn, who had been injured when a power conduit exploded during the battle. The Sorith's normally luminescent skin was dull, their life signs weakened but stable. I failed, Maya said quietly. We lost so many ships, so many lives, and barely scratched their fleet. Kilorn's eyes opened slowly. No, you showed something I did not expect. When your planned strategy failed, your captains adapted. Each ship fought differently, unpredictably. It is the only reason so many survived at all. Fat lot of good it did us. They're still coming, and now we have fewer ships to defend Earth. Perhaps we have been approaching this wrong, Kilorn said, their voice growing stronger. The Sorith sought to match the Harvester's technology. Your people sought to match their destructive power. Neither approach succeeded alone. Maya looked up. What are you suggesting? A true integration, not just of our technologies, but of our thinking. The Harvester's greatest strength is prediction based on patterns. Your species' greatest strength is unpredictability, creativity in crisis. We've been trying to integrate. No, Kilorn interrupted, struggling to sit up. We have been cooperating, not truly integrating. I believe there may be a way to create something new, a synthesis that the Harvesters cannot predict because they have never encountered it before. For the first time since the battle, Maya felt a spark of hope. What do you need? Access to your neural mapping technology, and volunteers who think differently. As they returned to a planet gripped by fear of the approaching enemy, Maya and Kilorn began work on what would become known as the Convergence Protocol, humanity's last, best hope against the darkness that had consumed so many worlds before them. The CONVERGNC, Earth's orbital defense platforms, gleamed against the darkness of space, a thin line of technology standing between humanity and extinction. 3 weeks had passed since the devastating defeat at Saturn, and the Void Harvester fleet now hung in lunar orbit, 7 massive vessels arranged in a perfect heptagon formation. They had made no move to attack, as if savoring the fear of their cornered prey. Deep beneath Geneva, in a secure facility built specifically for the project, Maya Chen watched as Killorn made final adjustments to what they now called the convergence engine. The device, if it could be called that, was unlike anything ever created by either species, a bewildering amalgamation of Sorith crystalline computing and human neural interface technology. "Will it work?" she asked, not for the first time. Killorn's skin patterns flickered with uncertainty. "In theory, yes. In practice, we lack precedent. This is beyond experimental. It is evolutionary." The convergence protocol had emerged from their desperate brainstorming after the Saturn defeat. Traditional weapons had failed. Traditional tactics had failed. They needed something the Harvesters could not predict because it had never existed before. A true synthesis of human and Sorith consciousness, linked directly to their remaining ship's weapons and defense systems. "The volunteers are ready," Dr. Wong reported, entering the chamber. Behind her came 7 humans, pilots, scientists, and strategists, each chosen for their unique cognitive patterns and exceptional adaptability under pressure. "You understand the risks," Maya said to them, not a question but a reminder. The neural load could be significant. Major Tara Jackson, an ace pilot who had survived the Saturn engagement, stepped forward. "With respect, Captain, we're out of options. The Harvesters will attack within hours. This is our last shot." The process of connection was unlike anything Maya had witnessed. Each volunteer sat within a specially designed interface chamber, surrounded by Sorith crystalline matrices. As Killorn activated the system, the human's consciousness began to merge not just with the technology, but with fragments of Sorith collective memory that Killorn had integrated into the system. On screens around the facility, Maya watched the volunteers' neural patterns shift and expand, reaching out to interface with the defense platforms and the remaining fleet in orbit. "It's working," Dr. Wong whispered, her eyes fixed on the monitoring equipment. "The neural integration is holding. My God, they're everywhere at once." Through the convergence engine, the 7 connected humans could perceive and control Earth's entire defense network simultaneously. They experienced the cold vacuum of space, the humming power of the orbital platforms, the tense readiness of crews aboard the remaining ships, all as extensions of their own consciousness. But more than that, they began to think in new patterns, their human creativity and intuition blending with Sorith logical structures and technological understanding to create something entirely new, a hybrid consciousness that operated on principles neither species fully understood. "The Harvesters are moving," announced General Williams from the tactical station. All 7 ships advancing toward Earth defense perimeter. Maya turned to the neural interface chambers. The volunteers' physical bodies remained still, but their minds were now spread across Earth's defenses, preparing for humanity's final stand. "Let them come," she said quietly. The battle began with the Harvesters employing the same tactics that had been so effective at Saturn, coordinated algorithmic attacks designed to predict and counter Earth's defensive movements. But this time, they encountered something different. Earth's defense platforms and ships moved in patterns that defied conventional tactics, neither the rigid formations that the Sorith might have employed nor the aggressive but predictable maneuvers of standard human combat doctrine. Instead, they flowed like water, adapting in real time with a creativity that seemed impossible for mechanical systems. "The convergence is working," Killorn said, wonder in their voice. "The connected humans are thinking in ways neither of our species could alone." Through the neural link, the volunteers discovered they could perceive weaknesses in the Harvester ships that neither human nor Sorith sensors had detected, subtle fluctuations in their energy fields that revealed momentary vulnerabilities. They coordinated Earth's weapons to fire precisely at these points, causing cascading failures across the enemy vessels. The harvesters, for the first time in the conflict, appeared confused. Their attacks became disjointed as they tried to adapt to a defense system that operated on principles they couldn't predict or understand. 3 hours into the battle, the first harvester ship fell, its core destabilized by a precisely timed series of attacks from 5 different defense platforms, firing in a sequence that seemed random, but was in fact meticulously calculated by the Convergence consciousness to create a resonance effect. A cheer went up in the command center, but Maya remained focused. 6 more to go, she said, her eyes never leaving the tactical display. The harvesters, realizing their danger, changed tactics. 2 of the vessels broke formation, accelerating directly toward Earth on a suicide trajectory. If they reached the atmosphere, the resulting impact would devastate the planet regardless of who won the space battle. "They're going to ram us," General Williams said, his face pale. Through the neural link, the Convergence had already anticipated this move. 3 Earth ships positioned themselves in the path of the oncoming harvesters, their shields modified to create a spatial distortion field, a technology that shouldn't have worked according to either human or Sorith physics, but somehow functioned when conceived by the hybrid consciousness. When the harvester ships hit the field, they didn't crash through it. Instead, their momentum was redirected, sending them into a spiraling trajectory away from Earth and into the path of their own allies. The resulting collision destroyed 1 harvester instantly and crippled another. The battle raged for nearly 20 hours. Earth's defenses took heavy damage, with multiple platforms destroyed and several ships lost. But the harvesters, for the first time in their long history of conquest, found themselves outmatched not by superior firepower, but by an adversary they fundamentally could not understand or predict. One by one, the remaining enemy ships were destroyed or disabled, until the final harvester, the largest of the 7, initiated what appeared to be an emergency FTL jump. Before it could escape, the Convergence directed all remaining Earth weapons to fire on a specific point in its drive system, causing a catastrophic overload that consumed the vessel in a blinding flash of energy. In the aftermath, as damage reports flooded in and rescue operations began, Maya stood in the chamber where the 7 volunteers were being carefully disconnected from the Convergence engine. The neural strain had taken a severe toll. All were unconscious, some showing signs of neurological damage that might never fully heal. "They saved us all," she said to Killorn, who was monitoring the disconnection process. "But at what cost?" "A question both our species will be contemplating for generations," the Sorith replied. "This Convergence, it is not something either of us could have predicted. It represents possibilities we had not imagined." Major Jackson was the first to regain consciousness, her eyes opening slowly as medical staff hovered nearby. When she spoke, her voice was weak but clear. "We saw them," she said, "not just the ships here, all of them. The entire Harvester Collective. They're afraid now. They encountered something they couldn't consume or understand, and it terrifies them." Maya leaned closer. "What do you mean, you saw all of them?" "The Convergence connected us to something larger, some kind of underlying quantum field that links all consciousness across space. We could perceive the Harvester network, spread across dozens of star systems, and they could perceive us." A weak smile crossed her face. "They're retreating, pulling back from all their fronts. They're afraid the Convergence might spread." Later, as Earth began the long process of recovery, Maya and Killorn stood on the observation deck of the repaired Defiant, gazing down at the planet that had so nearly been lost. "Your people surprised me, Captain Chen," Killorn said. "Throughout our long flight from the Harvesters, we sought technological solutions, better defenses, faster ships. Never did we consider that the answer might lie in a new form of consciousness itself." "We didn't either," Maya admitted. "We just did what humans always do when backed into a corner. We got creative. The difference is, this time we had you to help channel that creativity into something transcendent." Kilorn's skin patterns shifted in what Maya now recognized as their expression of deep reflection. The volunteers report that the experience changed them. Even disconnected from the convergence engine, they perceive reality differently now. They carry within them echoes of Soreth consciousness, just as I find myself thinking in more human patterns. A permanent convergence, perhaps the beginning of one. Our civilizations were brought together by crisis, but what we've created together may outlast any conflict. The convergence has shown us possibilities neither species would have discovered alone. Below them, Earth continued its rotation, scared but unbowed. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and emerged not just victorious but transformed. The Void Harvesters had sought to consume yet another civilization, but instead encountered something unprecedented. A union of different minds that created something greater than the sum of its parts. So what happens now? Maya asked. Kilorn gestured toward the stars beyond Earth's orbit. Now, Captain Chen, we explore those possibilities together. The universe is vast, and we have only just begun to understand its true nature. The convergence has opened doors neither of our species knew existed. As they stood together, human and Soreth, Maya realized that in fighting to save their worlds, they had changed them forever. The threat had been existential, but so was the transformation it had sparked. A convergence of different minds and methods that might reshape the very fabric of galactic civilization. The battle was over, but the true journey was just beginning.